I love these films. However, the TV series that recently aired on Nickelodeon has left many people with mixed feelings. In fact, if you ask any die-hard fans of the movies, they'll be quick to lambast it. And I will admit, for quite a while I wasn't fond either. Partly because it was so obvious that these were different people working on them from the films. The series would sometimes break the film's continuity and end up messing a lot of things up. Sometimes even costing certain characters their dignity and having their personalities differ from that of the established canon, making for some often cringe-worthy moments. But thank God, nearing the end of the first series and going into series 2, the episodes seemed to get better and better, at which point the series managed to win me over. I mean, the hour-long special Enter the Dragon Warrior was incredible. I personally like to count it as the third movie, I love it that much. And yeah, as you may have worked out, the character in 10th place is from the TV series. You'll be even more surprised to know that it's one of the villains. As the series started off, it suffered from having some abysmal antagonists, but thankfully as the series got better, so did the featured characters. But when I was making this list, I had a massive toss-up between all the villains I liked. One was a fox named Junji. He is by all means a decent bad guy for the series standards, and his episodes were some of the better ones when the series started off. Ki-Pa from Enter the Dragon Warrior was brilliant, getting the luxury of appearing in easily the best episode and having the voice talent of Alfred Molina. Not to mention, he was definitely intimidating, and that was while he was still in the form of a pig, never mind what he turns into later on, which I won't spoil for anyone who hasn't seen it. The Zhangji, or hopping ghosts, I actually found to be legitimately scary, so by all means, any of them could have been shoo-ins for my list, but somehow this other villain I chose ended up winning over all of them. It's weird because I don't think this character is a better villain than the ones I previously mentioned, but this is my list after all, and despite everything, this was the villain I seemed to end up liking more and found myself able to talk about more. Despite the fact that we actually know very little about his character, we don't know his motives for being evil or his origins, but try to bear with me on this.
Hello.
Meet Tong Fo, and just to make things clear for those of you who are worried, Tong Fo is the only character from the TV series on my list. All the rest of them are from the movies. Also, in case you're wondering what on earth that incredibly strange creature is, I will say yes, it is from our planet, and 2, it's a Chinese slow loris. Which helps me segue into one of the reasons why I do like this guy. He helped to introduce me to an awesome animal that I surprisingly didn't know anything about until that point of seeing him. Many people wouldn't think much of them, but trust me, these animals are really awesome. What I love most about these distant cousins of ours is that they are the only primates on the planet that harbour a venomous bite. Every loris, right from its early years, has a gland on their arms that will secrete an oil that, when mixed with their own saliva, will form a potent toxin, which is then delivered with an aggressive bite. The venom is so toxic that humans have died from it. And as for their distinctly large eyes, well, like many other early primate species, the loris is mostly a nocturnal animal, and needs all the help it can get when seeing everything in the dark. But sadly, as awesome as these animals are, the tragedy is that their cuteness is often their downfall. Many of you, even if you weren't sure as to what these animals are, will know about the long string of quote-unquote cute videos of them on YouTube. The slow lorises are sold on legal pet trades. If you're caught with a video camera near these places, you could get beaten up, if you're lucky. The reason they are high in demand as exotic pets is because the cute videos make people want to buy them. But the horrific aspect of it all is that because of their poisonous bite, the traders will pull out the loris's teeth with pliers without the luxury of an anaesthetic. As well as it being an ungodly cruel and painful thing to do to them, this will often lead to infections and will actually kill them. For more information, I highly recommend you watch the documentary Jungle Gremlins of Java, which looks at the work of Dr. Anna Nakaris in her quest to research the slow loris and help stop the cruelty. Out of anything I've ever recommended you to see, this is the biggest. Go check it out. Trust me, you'll be impressed by her efforts. And as if I didn't need to make this any more clear, do not buy a slow loris as a pet. But anyway, back onto Tong Fo. He's a recurring villain from the TV series, a notorious criminal whose expertise does seem to range from him being like an insane Arkham Asylum-ish criminal to an organised crime boss. But methinks I don't need to point out what his most outstanding feature is.
Man, your eyes are huge. My eyes aren't big. I have a small skull. My brain barely fits inside it.
Yeah, let's check that, shall we? No, your skull's fine. Your eyes just make you look like the missing cast member of Frankenweenie. Actually, I find it funny how he's comfortable with proclaiming that he has a cranial deformity, but isn't quick to admit that his eyes are just bulbous. The reason I have him on this list is that I just find him so much fun to watch, and I'm genuinely interested to know more about him, since they honestly don't reveal hardly anything about him. Even his first entrance made me jump. Those eyes are just a nasty surprise to see for the first time. And given the fact that this character is often filmed with an extreme close-ups, it's a feature that takes a while to get used to. I think this guy does have a very cool design. I like how they exaggerate the features of a real Loris. His anatomy is a bit off, but somehow doesn't look oddly proportioned in a distracting way. Everything seems to work on him. His eyes clearly had some effort put into them. The colouring makes them look as if they have actual depth. And I like the design of his clothes as well. In fact, I think he's one of the best coloured out of all the characters. But I think what's memorable about him, apart from his eyes, is the fact that his behaviour is really unpredictable. You don't know whether he'll leap out and try to kill you, simply stand there and give you an unpleasant look, or even be nice to you. But even the latter isn't a pleasant option. Sometimes he tends to get a bit too close for comfort and can get very touchy-feely. Sometimes he'll just keep switching moves at the drop of a hat.
Go! Hurry back. For dessert.
Cuckoo. Tong Fo does often walk that line between hilarious and intimidating.
A ransom? No. I think I'm gonna keep him for a pet. Oh, the fun we're gonna have. Walks, training, punishments. This is so special. Look at me. I'm giddy. Oh.
Plus, I just love how he can throw around a panda that is more than triple his size and God knows how many times his own weight. That said, the animation on him is great. The real Loris has a very interesting way of moving, and I love how they tried to capture that with him. So I think there is a lot you can do with that aspect. I saw one in London Zoo, and the way it moved down to the ground and twisted itself around so strangely and yet so gracefully, it just enchanted me. He never fails to make me laugh, and for a while he was probably one of my favourite things to come out of the series. At the time I was making this, he appeared in only 2 episodes, the first being Jailhouse Panda, where we meet him in Chogon Prison, and yes, that's the same one from the movie. The reason he's in jail is because of this whole business with the mystic Warhammer. I could make as many Thor jokes as possible, but honestly I'm not clever enough. I don't highly recommend you watch this episode since it involves a moment with Tigress that is famously one of the most hated scenes of the entire show. So I would tell you to watch the episode, but stop watching after the part where he leaves his cell. After that it goes downhill fast. Luckily the second episode he appears in, Father Crime, is a great episode. In fact, I didn't know he was going to be in it until he showed up halfway through, so it was a pleasant surprise. In it, we finally got to see his home on Camelback Mountain, which he mentioned in the previous episode he appeared in. I love that demonic Slowlor statue in there as well. I mean, what the hell is it? Why the hell is it even there? I don't know why, but it's just awesome. Worth mentioning that it's played by voice actor Jeff Bennett, who is definitely one of the biggest names in the voice acting world. I guarantee he's been entertaining you since before you could even talk. You cannot watch a cartoon without hearing his voice in it. Trying to count how many roles he's had is pretty difficult since his list of roles is longer than both my arms. But most famously, he currently voices Kowalski in the Penguins of Madagascar series. He's also really good at impressions. After all, his role as Johnny Bravo was basically an Elvis impression. But in this role, it's clear right off the bat that Jeff was doing an impression of Christopher Walken. He mimics his mannerisms down to a T. That, and I can't help but think he bears an uncanny physical resemblance to Walken as well, most specifically when Walken was in the movie A View to Kill. It makes me think that if they ever decided to put him in one of the films or specials, then they'd probably get Walken to actually voice him. And I say, definitely. Besides, it wouldn't be the first time Walken's had a role in a DreamWorks film, surprisingly enough. But it just hit me. If they do more with Tong Fo, then it would help raise awareness for the Slowlors just as it did for me. If they make him into a really intimidating bad guy, then that would really put anyone off buying one as a pet. I personally would have liked if they made a clear reference to the fact that he's a poisonous animal, since not many people will know that. But if you look inside his mouth, he does have very sharp incisors, and a couple of times he does lick his lips so he's making a threat, so maybe that was them being subtle. Actually, going on that Arkham thing I said at the beginning, something about him does remind me of Mr. Zaz, and I hope they go on a similar path with him. And by that, I mean, I hope they eventually give us a really good backstory, maybe show something about him that'll make him sympathetic. Since in the first Arkham game, Zaz was memorable, but still an incidental villain. But in the second game, they reveal his backstory and made him sympathetic and more developed. If the correct writers are left in charge of Tong Fo, then I think we could be up to something very good with him. I know you all have your favourite villains of the series, and all I can say is Tong Fo is definitely mine. I certainly hope to see him again in some more episodes. Nevertheless, it's safe to say, if looks could kill, then Tong Fo will be the biggest mass murderer in the entire Kung Fu Panda franchise.
Dude, those eyes. Seriously.
It's not my eyes! It's my skull!